And I mean, we're talking about money and the economy now anyways. Are there any other challenges you see financially for the county, and how you plan on working with those challenges in this extremely tough time?
Well, I mean, there are always financial challenges, and that's kind of what makes an office and makes politicians earn their keep. That some of the development costs, you have to find the instruments, the financial instruments, to be able to do those development costs. We're looking at issues that are regional. I mean, Columbia is the center of a region. It's we have a regional airport here. We are looking at regional projects through several different counties, not just Boone County itself, but the surrounding counties also look at Columbia as the center of that region. We have the university here. We have to look at ways in which we can grow the economy using the intellectual power of the university, and maybe even look at possibility of creating some incubation in terms of taking an idea and finding your angel investors that will invest in these ideas to get them up to market strength. That would require a lot of investors having confidence in the ideas generated at the university level. In terms of the of growth, in terms of residential development or in terms of manufacturing development, there are projects in the pipeline right now in terms of examining sewer lines, where they can be, how we can develop. Those are all things that we can look at in terms of improving the infrastructure for that. In terms of how you do that, in terms of financial instruments, there are the TIF districts, the tax incremental financing, where you can establish a district that would attract industry to come in to create an industrial park that could be a socialized industrial park, not necessarily a private park, but one that would be possibly owned by the city or by the county, and that it would give the county or the city a greater ability to deal with the incoming manufacturing company or the incoming company to provide the kinds of services and to provide the attractiveness of those services, and have the kind of shovel-ready infrastructure that could be promoted through the tax incremental financing. All it does is provide the funds to do the infrastructure, and then as the company grows, then you pay that back through the bonds that you release to create the infrastructure, and it gives the city and the county that kind of control to attract the industry and to deal directly with the industry, so we can get around some of these late night meetings at the city council and some of the long sessions that we have in planning and zoning in the county level.
I know you already went over a couple of things, but if elected, what would be kind of the first things on your to-do list?
Well, I think I've mentioned more than once that the county master plan and the county planning documents are really outdated. They were written in 1996. They were limited with limited resources, and they basically wrote into the master plan the 1973 zoning ordinance. And I think we need to take a look at that. Of a lot of the zoning that was done in 1973 made sense in 73, but it doesn't make any sense now. The kind of zoning that we have in Columbia makes 60% of the unincorporated land is what's called A2, and A2 allows a landowner to divide their land from their farm into 2.5 acre plots of land. We can't do that because there's not the fire flow, there's not the protection of the groundwater, so that a lot of people that think they have this zoning find out they really can't develop it because it's much too small and too expensive in terms of what the county would have to pay to allow them to do that. So we need to kind of take a look at that and work with landowners in terms of finding ways to increase the value of their land or get a return on that value of the land, to provide incentives for developers to do that. And I've suggested that in terms of a plan that were developers, if they wanted to develop in the county, far away from the city, that we could talk in terms of cluster development, where we'd still have a large piece of that land open for stormwater control. We need that. And at the same time, we'd be able to provide the kind of city-like services in a cluster development where people would have the amenities. And it's all based on how houses are positioned in there to get the view and the nature feel in terms of that particular environment. That would be number one. Number two, and I understand there is a study going on now in the county, but I think we really need to look at how government can be more efficient. And we're going into very tight times. We have staff that are really underutilized, and we need to take a look at how we can better utilize our staff, which may mean more training. It may mean an increase in salary to provide that kind of incentive to our own county employees. And it may mean doing more work in-house rather than contracting out. So those are differences when you come into tight times. I would like to look at ways in which we can do this with our own county employees to utilize their services rather than just farm things out and keep our county employees doing menial jobs that don't enhance their skills and don't enhance their career in terms of why they got involved in government in the first place. If you're involved in government and you're doing the same thing year after year after year, you lose the incentive, and we can lose some of the very well-intentioned and very qualified employees either to recruitment elsewhere or just to a burnout where you just say, what difference does it make what I do? And I think we need to take a look at that. And those would be the two main things that I would look at.
Is there anything I'm missing? Any other issues you'd like to discuss?
I did mention one of the areas was emergency preparedness, and the issue there is the great emphasis today is on the preparedness from terrorism, and I think the possibility of that happening here in Boone County or Columbia is very remote. But the possibility of a natural disaster happening here, we face that year after year with tornado threats, with flooding, and we also have, both in Kansas City and St. Louis, we've had problems of flooding where people have needed to go out and help with the sandbagging to prevent some of the damages done by that flooding. And I would like to see us just have a little fire drill. How prepared are we? Where are the resources that we claim we have? And let's have a shakedown in terms of those natural disasters that we could face. What happened if a tornado struck? One of the things that happened probably 15 years ago, Sioux City, Iowa, had an emergency preparedness drill of a disaster happening in there, and they brought in the hospitals. They simulated the disaster, and they worked through the disaster. And not more than a week later, a United Airlines plane crashed in a farm field just outside of Sioux City, and that city worked like clockwork to save the lives of all those people that were involved in that. And I think those are kind of things that you don't expect, but they could happen. And there are things that you need to prepare for. And if you are spending the money for emergency preparedness, you really ought to run a drill periodically so we know that this really works, rather than just assuming that it all works. And then when the actual disaster happens, finding that there are a number of communication problems, there's a number of where the resources are stored and how you get to them. So we need to do that kind of a drill.